episode 35. Welcome to the show. Thanks, Big John. All right, this show is blowing up. Let me just start with that. Duncan, what's going on with downloads with YouTube? It's going crazy right now, right?
Yeah, we're doing well.
How much credit for that do you want? Like 20%, 40%?
Yeah, like 40%. Probably.
40% would be enough, sufficient? All right. We have two very special guests today. Tomorrow's my birthday. We're taping this on Thursday the 24th. My birthday's the 25th. And there's only two people that had to be here. I really wanted to have them here. And it is Lynette Lopez. Lynette, what's your title at Insider?
I am either a senior correspondent or a columnist, depending on the day.
Have you been there 10 years?
I have been there 10 years.
Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Crushing it.
Crushing it.
Badass.
Had my 10-year anniversary. They keep paying me to do what I like, so I keep doing it.
Do you still sometimes accidentally call it BI or Business Insider? Or
All the time.
Okay.
All
You're
the
not
time.
going to let that go.
I
do it too.
I'm not too pressed about it.
Okay.
It'll work itself out.
It's
you
still
know?
Business Insider to me.
And technically, the
still
page
cluster
that
stock
I
to me,
write for is still Business Insider.
Do you remember Cluster Stock?
I think about cluster stock all the time when I'm sick of writing about serious things and I want to write about men's fashion, cargo shorts, or how everyone needs to shave their goatee.
Yeah.
That's when I really miss cluster stock.
Cluster Stock had some classic posts back in the day where the new trend was icing people with the Smirnoff ice.
What a time
covered
to
that
be alive.
They covered that extensively.
And it deserved it.
And it deserved it. All right. Also here, Dr. Phil Perlman. Phil, you are at Osprey, but most people know you, I think, your StockTwits days, right?
Sure.
Okay. And now at Osprey. And what's your title there?
CMO.
Chief Marketing Officer.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Isn't that crazy?
How excited are you to be on The Compound and Friends?
I'm so ecstatic to be here. I love you guys.
We love
and
you
I love
too.
Lynette. It's like,
Yeah.
I love you
It's
too, Phil.
perfect.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you
Wait,
got-
hang on. Before we get into it, I think you brought me and Ben together in the Yahoo Finance days. There was a party back in the day.
and it was love at first sight.
It was we clicked.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
I think
remember
I've
that
had
party.
a hand in many connections being made early
did.
on.
100%.
Big time.
You
And it's my pleasure. Like I
you
love
connected
doing
me
that.
with Barry. So
There you
Wow.
go.
I would
Major.
not. I would not have been. I would not have met him. I would have eventually met him. I would not have met him when I met him if not for you and Howard at
In
Lindsay
Coronado.
Palooza. Yeah. I was at that Yahoo party that Michael met Ben at. That was when Tumblr was the next hot shit. Remember
Was
that?
that at the Core Club?
Mm-hmm.
I remember that party. I was
2013?
there.
Yeah.
Wow. It's
Everybody
been a
was
long
there.
time, guys.
Everybody was there.
That was 9 years ago.
It was a
I
really
wanna
cool
shut
thing we were
up.
doing. And of course,
Yahoo dropped the ball.
And then my
it
Tumblr.
was amazing.
Do you remember
like
when
Marissa Mayer was worse? I never said anything until now. It's like 10 years later, but she was even worse than all of the reports.
Really?
Because
Say more.
Wow.
Dude,
I mean,
they
we
had,
had
they had
such a
said
thing.
Tolley, Mackie, you,
me,
Herb
Aaron,
Greenberg.
Task.
Aaron. Yeah.
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 We were killing.
Who else was there?
And it was just like,
Could have owned the
Katie Couric was there.
Could have
And I
owned the
remember getting
interwebs.
I remember getting in an elevator with Katie Couric, and she looked at me and she goes, "How do I get my stuff seen?"
Katie Kirk.
Wow.
Katie Couric said that to me.
What'd you tell her?
I was like,
Tumblr?
yeah. I was like, "Oh, do you have a Tumblr?"
So that's good. Insecurity never goes away. Cool.
Yeah.
Good
Great,
to know.
yeah.
All right. So what's you're chief marketing officer at Osprey, and just let's do full disclosure. Michael and I made equity investments in Osprey, the company, and Osprey is basically building out a suite of crypto investment products for private placements, for exchange traded stuff. How long have you been there now? Is it a year and a half?
I've been there about a year and a half. Yeah.
Okay. What's the latest and greatest from Osprey? What's going on now?
Well, we're just launching an NFT fund, and
I got the email for that.
right,
That's
and
Justin
we're just
Paterno.
doing like a founders round. Justin is an animal.
Yeah.
He's brilliant, and he is chief portfolio manager. We have an incredible team around him, and it's just really fun.
You're being reunited with Justin because Justin at Zero Beta was your protege at StockTwits.
I brought him into StockTwits as an intern early on.
Yeah.
He lived up north of the city, and so I had a home office
Yeah.
up in the sticks, and he used to have to come down.
Shout out to Monticello.
Shout out to Montebello. Exactly.
Montebello.
Montebello?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's even smaller than
Monticello
Monticello.
is-
Right.
I think Thomas Jefferson's house.
It's even smaller than Monticello, but So he would come down, and we would work in the basement at early day stock twits, and then we brought him on, and then
What
he
basement?
eventually in my house.
Oh.
I had an office in
Dude,
the
you
house.
had this dude doing community management, which is basically content moderation.
Yeah, we were tweeting, we were blogging,
And
we
there
were
were some days
blocking
that he was like,
people.
I would see him. We would be like a happy hour. He'd be twitching.
Dude, community of
from the shit he
psychopaths.
had to
Early
delete.
early StockTwits community. Oh my god.
All psychopaths. And it was just wonderful too. Like it was lovely.
All right. Speaking of psychopaths, let's get right into it. Stocks are rallying hard right now on the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, which is not as weird as you might think. This type of thing does tend to happen where there's a lot of fear in the market of an event. The event happens, and all of a sudden, everyone that wanted to sell already sold, and you get this big comeback in stocks. But I want to focus on the event itself first. We're fortunate to have Lynette here. So you have been talking and writing about Russia more than anyone else I know. And I don't know if you remember this. I gave a guest lecture at Columbia with you. You had a class.
Do I remember this? Yes, you came to my class.
I came to your class.
Yes.
But you were teaching that class about the Russian media, right?
Yes.
Explain what that was.
So back in 2010, when I was a student at the Columbia School of Journalism, I did a research project with some classmates into Russia Today, which we now know is this really nasty Kremlin propaganda unit. But at that time, people really didn't know what it was. So we published our findings. The Kremlin didn't like it. We were like, this is anti-American propaganda, and we need to make sure that it is labeled appropriately and that we're monitoring what they're saying on this outlet. And, that got some traction in the world of journalism. And eventually I started teaching a class about Russian propaganda at the journalism school in 2014, 2015. And then, of course, 2016, we see what happened when the GRU essentially took over Facebook and made Americans go crazy.
And you were on that before it even happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so glad you didn't get poisoned.
I did go to a thing called PutinCon once, where it was like all of Putin's enemies and like
Is that like Linsenpalooza? Is that somewhat
like,
similar?
but darker.
Okay.
And I was like joking. I was like, nobody wash your hands, because then you got to turn the thing. That's not a good joke now because everybody washes their hands. But I've interviewed some really interesting people. The former president of Estonia, who has been very, very outspoken about shoring up the region against cyber attacks. Bill Browder, who is the guy who has been pushing.
we all read Red
We
Notice.
all read Red Notice.
Yeah.
He's one of my heroes.
Yeah.
So I've been in that community in some way, shape, or form since 2010.
Okay, so here's what I want to ask you. You sit in this really interesting nexus of people that understand the stock market and people that understand Russia. And there's probably like 3 or 4 people like you, period. Like there's not a lot of people who those are their 2 areas that they really know. You must be seeing a ton of coverage by the financial media of this Russian situation.
Yeah.
And I'm betting a lot of it is really wrong. What are we all not getting right? What do we all not understand?
I just don't think we really understand what the Russians are working with. There's a lot of talk about Fortress Russia and how the Russians have shorn up their defenses against economic sanctions and all those things. But it doesn't seem like the Kremlin's men, the oligarchs, are necessarily on board with this. I don't know if they necessarily knew exactly what was going to go down in Ukraine. It seems like
This is not going well for them.
It seems like this is not going well for them at all. And it's unclear what Putin thought, but we know what happened in 2014. Putin went into Crimea, and nothing happened to him. He was able to take the territory without a single shot when the United States and his allies were on much better footing. And I think that Putin believed, because he's a realist, all this crap about the history of Ukraine and how he thinks it's his and all that stuff, that's something. But the reality is he chose this moment because we look weak. And that's the kind of person he is.
So the timing is more about what's going on in Europe and America than it is about
Absolutely.
whatever Russia thinks.
He already locked down Russian civil society. Starting in 2014, he killed a man named Boris Nemtsov, who had been the leader of the opposition in Russia in some way, shape, or form since before the wall fell. So he shot him right outside the Kremlin, and ever since then, he's been locking down journalists, intellectuals, obviously Navalny, anybody that would be able to mount some kind of opposition or tell the truth about what's going on in Ukraine. His expansionist plans have been pretty clear since then. But the question was, right, would he be able to pull it off like he did in 2014? Would he be able to go in there without firing a shot? And Joe Biden made sure that he could not do that.
Right.
He made sure that this was going to cost him. And I think that the world is shocked at what he's willing to do at an extremely high cost. It's not like the Russians have ever cared about body counts. They've never. But I think it's shocking to the world what Putin is willing to risk, what he's willing to lose. And once he's a pariah, we really don't know what he's willing to do.
I don't know what the Russian stock market did today, but Bloomberg reported that I don't know how they figure this out, but they think the Russian oligarchs collectively lost $32 billion as of the end of last week, and that's before any sanctions. That's just like, I guess what, Russian stocks and bonds?
Russian stocks, Russian bonds, companies. Obviously, here's if we are going to assume that Russia is fine, then what's happening in its markets doesn't make any sense. Like the ruble's getting completely crushed, the stock market's going to shit. If Russia were really like hunkered down and had this figured out, then I don't know how this would be happening.
So you don't believe that they're so good at evading sanctions, or there's a secret deal with China or whatever?
That's not what the market's telling us.
So, John, throw up this chart. So the Russian market fell 34% today. That's number one.
Yeah.
Today? But after having already crashed.
It was down 34% today. So what this chart is credit default swaps on Russia. And look at this compared to 2014 when they invaded Crimea. Like, this is off the charts today versus what it was then. The market is taking this very seriously.
It's a very different situation based on what we're seeing. And I think it's because the world is actually, aligned on this. Boris Johnson, whatever his political domestic issues, is going super hard in the paint. The Germans are getting dragged along, even though they know they have major energy issues.
Yeah, they seem more reluctant than the British, right? I mean, just from the outside looking in.
Yes, they have major energy dependence on Russia and a very different relationship. And one of the things I think that the Germans don't have going for them is that they didn't have to fight the Nazis, so they don't know what this is like.
Right.
But this is bad, and I think that another thing we need to consider as Americans is that Russian occupation is not fun. They are going to destroy Ukrainian civil society, the intellectuals, anybody who could stand against them is going to get crushed. It's going to be a very ugly day in Ukraine, and it has been very ugly in Donetsk.
So today's today's U.S. stock market, I don't want to call it a reaction. I don't think people are bullish because of an invasion, but today's risk on, I guess, late day rally, especially in the NASDAQ, that's not about people saying, oh, this is no big deal. That's just like stocks.
It's capitulation.
Stocks have been down so much for so long.
Or it's the opposite. Or it's they think, you know what, this is so bad that the Fed may not raise rates. What if the Fed doesn't raise?
So I think you're dead right about that. Nobody's gonna say 50 basis point rate hike in March anymore.
It's off.
I don't think it was ever on, but no one's saying
that
it.
went from 70 to 50 to down to 20 today. I don't know where it closed.
20% probability?
Yeah, it's probably closed lower than that at this point.
I mean, if I were the Fed, I wouldn't say anything so that we can just, there's selling continues and the bubble in the market kind of, deflates a little bit. But I don't know. We've got really, really mixed up inflation picture now. And I don't know if the Fed hiking rates is going to help or hurt or those conversations are above my pay grade.
They
but
always
it definitely
jawbone, though.
Muddies the picture.
Don't they? They always jawbone, and it's effective.
They haven't
and
raised.
beautiful.
They haven't raised once. The 2-year Treasury it went from basically 0 to 1.25. They haven't done a single rate hike.
Right.
The market did it for them based on their posture.
Right.
Let me read this to you. This is Bank of America. Outside of its commodity sector, Russia is a marginal player in the global economy. Unlike China, it plays little role in global supply chains. Even countries in Central and Eastern Europe only send 1 to 3% of their exports to Russia. U.S. linkages are even smaller. Savita Subramanian points out only 0.1% of sales by S&P 500 companies go to Russia.
Yeah,
So
I've always-
economically,
yeah.
it's a non-event other than sentiment-wise.
I've always said that Russia has four main exports: oil, steel, hackers, and hookers.
You've always said
And
that?
I've always said that.
Okay.
Generally not publicly
Yeah.
because it's not nice.
You know we're doing a podcast.
But now
That's a
there's a
book
war
title.
on,
That could
so
be a book title right there.
them.
Okay.
So them.
Okay.
I am astonished. This morning I woke up and wrote to some of my friends with family in Russia, and they said that this morning Russian television and radio was saying that yes, Russia invaded Ukraine, but they weren't using any missiles. I guess they're just going in for lunch
Peace
or like
troops, peace
whatever.
troops.
Nerf. They were using-
Nerf guns and silly string. I don't, the media in Russia is extremely locked down. They're not going to hear from us. They don't hear us. So I don't know how Putin keeps this up. If he keeps the borders open and keeps a free flow of people, I don't
Wouldn't
know.
it be the
but
ultimate? Wouldn't it be the ultimate troll to keep natural gas supplies flowing as normal? Like almost like,
he's like, what?
yeah, what's the problem? Like, because one of the statements that he made in the run up to this was, we have never cut off the flow of natural gas to Europe. Something like the idea that we would do that is preposterous. These are long-term contracts.
He's a big-time liar, and Sergei Lavrov is a big-time liar and comedian. So I don't believe anything that they say. I just watch what they do.
What's the most I mean, it's ridiculous at this stage in the game, but what's the most hopeful outcome here? That he loses a lot of political cred because this goes really wrong, and maybe this is the end of his regime? Is that way too hopeful?
That's way too hopeful.
Okay.
This is Russia.
Right.
Like,
you know, it's my birthday though. Like, can we
oh
say,
yeah,
can we
that's
say
right.
One, can we say one
we'll
hopeful
send him
thing
an
before
email.
we move on?
The best case scenario is that he's
I'm gonna
satisfied
pour more
with
wine. I'm
Ukraine.
gonna pour more
Please-
wine for you. We'll,
please pour more
we'll
wine.
come
Yeah.
back
So
to
can we,
that.
can we talk-
Happy birthday, bro.
Yeah.
What
by
do
the way.
you? So all
Happy,
right.
happy birthday.
Thank you. What do you when you look at the way investors have been behaving so far year to date, like even pre, like what's your take on market psychology right now?
Well, I think right now, so there's this paradox that occurs every time the market gets killed. And that is, we know that people behave irrationally or whatever. But the paradox is that when everything's great, nobody cares about risk management. And when the market gets killed, risk management comes to the forefront. You're going to see,
every time.
every single time, over
Never
and over
changes.
again, never changes. It's not about any particular market or any particular stock or any dynamic.
It's universal.
Just human nature. It will repeat again. Beware. So nobody can give you any good advice right now, because if you're all, if you're getting crushed and you're all, okay, I got to manage risk. The time to manage
the
risk.
fact.
So here's the only thing you could do, right? You set up a calendar event every month in your calendar. And it's like, hey, look at risk management. And one of those months, and you get, it's like the third of the month or whatever. And then you get it, whatever, you don't do anything. You get it, whatever, you don't do anything. And then when the market makes a new high and everything's great again, because everything will come back. Like, that's the beauty of it. Patience is genius. And you just have to wait it out. And there's going to come a time where the market's making new highs and that's the moment to manage your risk.
The reason why people throw risk management out the window, though, there are very practical reasons why. A, if you're a professional, it keeps you from if you're more concerned with risk when markets are trending higher, sure, it's the right thing to do, but it keeps you from making as much money as the other guy is one reason. And there's career risk inherent in that. Like if you're walking around 50% invested and the S&P 500 doubles, everyone's comparing you to the S&P 500. You could risk manage yourself out of a f***ing job on Wall Street, which is like...
It exactly depends on the audience that we're talking
100%.
to right now. If you're a professional there's people out there watching this right now who are professional money managers, and I'm not talking to them as much. They have their own set of problems. They have their own set of ways that they get rewarded for great performance. But if you are an advisor who's managing people's retirement accounts in a rational, tortoise beats the hare type of manner, or if you're just somebody who is preparing for retirement over a long period of time, then that's the person that I'm talking to.
So how does the person who's preparing for retirement risk manage? Is it as simple as 60-40 portfolio and rebalance?
It's having a methodology beforehand.
Because the reason I'm asking
and
is
then carrying that methodology out religiously,
Yeah.
tying yourself to a mass, whatever you have to do. Having great advisors who are have great experience and can help you and talk you down. I think that's part of it.
because I think the regular person on the street, you say the word risk manage to them, they honestly wouldn't even know the first thing, like what that really means.
No idea. And even if they do,
They'd be like, wait, so you mean sell?
right. Once they and even if they do, the moment animal spirits start really getting going, they just throw everything out the window and forget about it. So it's a paradox. It's difficult.
I agree. We're going to talk about the washout. The washout is finally upon us. Lynette, you wrote about the washout this week, and I love your writing. And then what do I want to? So the elite investors who have been predicting this really for a very long time, but they all of a sudden look smart again.
They do look smart.
Like Einhorn looks really smart, and
He
he is really smart. But I'm saying, like, once again, people are like, "Oh yeah, I should have listened to that guy."
Right. And, timing is everything. But I think that there's a lot of schadenfreude, going on amongst the value investors. And
They love this.
They love this, and they're watching this, and they're sitting on their hands, and they're saying, this is wonderful. But, one of my sources said, what we would have liked would be to get it right on the way up as well as the way down. Like, you'd like to be able to manage through both these situations. And there are very few people who are getting it right on both sides because there's been such a dramatic shift in the market.
Nobody gets all the upside and none of the downside.
Michael and I were talking about Einhorn on the way in today. We're both fans of his, and he's had a rough couple of years. A lot of it because of Tesla and the Fed just allowing insane bubbles.
Tesla, what's wrong with Tesla?
His bubble basket, I think he wrote that in 2015. So it's been a long time.
But so I was saying, I think he did 18% or something last year was his final number, and the S&P did 28, but it was a very bullshitty 28 because it was very heavily concentrated in Apple and Microsoft.
Not true. We debunked that. Not true.
We could go back to that, but I was saying that's an awesome 18 because probably his shorts were starting to be a positive contributor at some point, or maybe not till this year. What's the way to think about a value investor who plays long and short?
His shorts have to be going down more than his longs. He's got to be making money in this environment. I would think.
I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't know. What do you think?
I think he's making money in this environment. I talked to him, and I think that he is one of those investors who would say he wished he got it right on the way up, and the way down. But he also doesn't have the constitution to think like that. That's not how he is. He cannot. He's like Chanos. They cannot physically just go with the market. They have so much conviction about what value is and where money should go and what's right that they cannot just throw caution to the wind, go full Tiger Global and invest in dog insurance. They can't do that.
Well, I'm rooting for him because it's been a long time of suffering for him and his investors, at least on the just portfolio side. And to his credit, he was not out there like a maniac, flailing and blaming the Fed at every chance. He's been relatively quiet as far as I could tell, and just sort of licking his wounds. And it's nice to see the other side of that.
Yeah.
This is a good environment for all of a sudden once again for people that actually focus on company fundamentals, and it hasn't, or I shouldn't say that. It's been a good market for people who are focused on fundamentals but preoccupied with growth for 5 years. And now it's more about cash flow, profitability.
And it always was going to be. It always comes down to this. It always comes down to the math. It always does. And people kept saying this. And there was just no way to make people there's no way to make people listen when they're when they're making money. It's just a full on, scoreboard check, that kind of attitude about look at how much I'm making. And, you can, like I said in my piece.
You sound really smart, but look at my portfolio.
Look at my portfolio. And like I said in my piece, when there's a party on Wall Street, you can dance to the music or you can stand aside. But what you cannot do is pretend the party won't end, because it will always end.
Right. And we just don't know when.
But wait, but ironically, we're talking about the party ended, and maybe the anti-party ended. Like maybe today was the bottom.
No.
No?
No.
I don't think so
You
either.
still have
Get
garbage.
great rallies in bear markets.
Listen. Hold
Bear
on.
market rallies are fierce.
Hold on. We've been saying that bullshit for the last 5 years. Every single time the market bottomed, it was on a 9% up day, and everybody's like, "This isn't how markets bottom." Every time over the last 5 years, markets have bottomed on a day exactly like today. And I'm not saying that the market did bottom. We'll see. I tend to think it didn't, but. It's possible. This was a serious washout, and the move today off the lows in every area.
What is the close?
Especially the most
close?
beaten down names was pretty remarkable. We had like amazing intraday rally.
What was the close?
It could easily be bottom too. I'm not saying it isn't either. I'm just saying it's
All right.
not
So the Dow Jones
Was down 900.
was down 900 to close up 90. Nasdaq I don't think opened down that much and rallied all day.
So Nasdaq was in a bear market at the open. Like it was down 20% off its highs at the open. So we'll see.
As usual, we'll see. But 3.35% Nasdaq rally. You can't say it's me. I mean, you could say it's a bear market rally, and probably that's right. But still, it's big.
I just wanted to add one last thing about Einhorn too. He did 18% last year.
I think
and he
I
was
might have just
shorting
made that number up.
stocks. The only thing harder than risk management in a raging bull market is making money shorting stocks.
Impossible.
Kudos to
It's
that
impossible.
guy. It's hard.
Impossible. Phil, you made a good point earlier about like who are you talking to? Who's your audience? When I'm talking about like risk management or staying the course, whatever, I'm not talking to David Einhorn. He doesn't need my advice. The professional traders don't need my advice. They know a lot more than I do. I'm talking to the people that are scared, that just need like some sort of voice of reason, a calming voice. And I think for most people, the simple answer to risk management is just asset allocation. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. Find where your line is in terms of how much risk you can take. And unfortunately, nobody knows where their line is until they go over it. You have to go over your personal line at least one time to figure out, oh shit, I overestimated my risk
You
tolerance.
did that post. I think you've done it multiple times. I don't think it's Ben. I think it's you, where it's like, this is 60-40. This is max drawdown. This is average drawdown and bear whatever. And then 70-30. And then 80-20.
Yeah.
And then you went all the way down. Here's a 10-90 portfolio.
Right.
This is the best it'll do, and this is the worst that it's
So
historically done.
that's the way to frame this is, okay, you look at history because it's a decent guide for drawdowns, right? Like returns, who knows? But risk, we know, like the past is a pretty good barometer for what the future is going to look like in terms of risk. So you say to yourself, okay, I have $20,000, right? This portfolio at its worst lost 14%. And you calculate what's a 14% loss in $20,000? That's $2,800, whatever it is. Okay, that's too much money for me. I can't, that's too much. And then you just go from there. And that's like a reasonable way to think about it. Do you agree?
Dude, you're the best.
I'm
You're
contractually
just-
obligated not to
I
trade.
love you.
You blow me away.
Phil
Just how
Phil just
far
opened an
this
account
guy
with
has
you.
come. What's that?
Phil just opened an account with you.
Yeah, let's
No,
go.
because you know what, Phil, you were the one that encouraged me to start a blog in 2013. I love you.
Dude, I
really
remember
love
you at the beginning, snot-nosed mofo,
Yeah.
and now you're like
He was such a-
ridiculously
he was such a
brilliant,
smart ass.
Spouting, you're
opposed to
spitting
now.
numbers. Is that what they say? You're spitting, dude. You're spitting.
So 1 year since, speaking of things that we knew had to end badly, 1 year since the meme stock mania, I wanted to ask you guys, did anyone win? Who won?
Robinhood. No, Citadel. Of course. Yeah,
Citadel won.
Still
Yeah,
winning.
Robinhood did not
Yeah,
win.
Citadel.
Robinhood.
Good call.
Robinhood would not have been able to go public at the valuation it did if not for the meme stock
You know who
mania,
else?
though.
Sure, but the clients are going to get burned in this now downturn, and who knows what's going to happen
They've
to
already
Robinhood.
done
Have you seen the stock
burned.
price? Have you
Can
seen
we-
the stock price lately?
Yeah, it's yikes.
Hit an all-time low today. Can we talk about this one thing?
Hood, I couldn't believe the stock price.
Wait, time.
Crazy. So what is
Can
it,
I
like
get some more
2?
wine?
Yeah, where is that bottle?
Hello.
So here's another winner. AMC. That company legitimately might be out of business if it were not for the Wall Street bets. And here's the crazy part. Shout out to Michael Antonelli for pointing this out. AMC's still a $9 billion market cap. Like,
Yeah.
that's not tiny. And
That would have been a zero.
That would have been a zero. GameStop also still $9 billion. How is that possible?
It's only a matter of time. And here we go.
For what? Until it's worth $20 billion? I totally agree.
You think they're still screwed?
I think they're still screwed. The business model hasn't changed. They just have a bunch.
GameStop.
GameStop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what is GameStop?
Everybody's like waiting for this magical announcement of what they're going to pivot to.
They're
and if
not.
You tell
They
me
have
it's
no
fucking
pivot.
NFTs. I can't.
They had to have taken money out. The people controlling that company had to have taken so much money out when it went crazy.
Insider
So what do they
selling in all
care?
these companies.
So what will they care?
Well, I think they
They made a ton, and
what's
that company is like, what is it? It's a store that sells video games. What is that? Everything's streaming.
And actually-
like, I'm no video. I'm no
Well,
game
that was why
analysis
it was so
guy,
heavy.
but-
That was why it was so heavily shorted because obviously,
right.
Melvin Capital is fine. They just raised.
I heard. Ken Griffin is giving them
yeah,
their money back.
and
He doesn't want.
they just raised. They're launching a new fund,
Oh,
which makes perfect sense.
I described this last night in terms of like, I think, okay, so let's just use ARK as an example, not to pick on them, but ARK is down 61% from its highs. Okay, that's like a big number, but like, so what? I think like there's no context there. So here's what a 61% decline actually is, like to live it. If you start with $100 and you lose 25%, you're at $75. From there, you lose another 25%, you're at $56.25. At that point, like most people are like, all right, fuck this, I'm out, right? You lost 44%, like, I gotta get out of here. Then you lose another 25%, and then you lose another 8%, and that's what 61% down is.
but that's what the nature and what I was writing about in my story is the nature of this bull market got religious. It got.
What do you mean by that?
People had this like real deep connection to the talking heads of this market, people I called charlatans like Kathy Wood and Chamath Palihapitiya. They thought they were like Moses leading them to the promised land. And they have these like deep connections to these stocks. And it's literally what they don't tell you to do in trading school, get emotional, develop an affection for your positions. Like this is what they tell you not to do.
Generally speaking, and I'm guilty of this from time to time, generally speaking, one should not wear a T-shirt with the ticker symbol of the stock that they just bought.
Yeah,
Definitely
bullish.
not.
That's not bullish. So
You should not be rooting for these things
in
like their baseball
December
teams.
2020, remember I told you my neighbor said, I just don't think Kathy could lose money? And I went like this. That was December 2020. So the point, somebody emailed me the other day, why does she get so much attention? Like Ron Banner manages a very similar fund. And the reason why, and not picking on her, but this is just facts. The reason why is the way that she talks about her investments. The fact that her bear case on Tesla was a $2 or $3 trillion market cap. These are not serious conversations that investment professionals typically have. And so that's why the spotlight, and also to her credit, there's never in history been a fund manager that had 5 funds up 100% in a single year. So she deserved it, right? Credit to her. She managed a great fund, whatever. But the statements that she made and the money rushing in and the way that she was cheerleading it on, of course, it's her, it's her fund, was just something like that deserves all the spotlight that it got.
People in South Korea refer to her as Money Tree. And people call her Mama Kathy. Like this makes no
that true?
sense. Yes.
So this religious aspect, again, and this goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about risk management and it being just universal, that when the market's going crazy, nobody pays attention to it. There's a universality to this as well. And so anybody listening, this is going to happen again. It happened it happened in the late 90s.
I've seen it like 8 times already.
I've seen it 8 times already. There's going to be a 9th time. Maybe it's going to be 3 years from now. Maybe it's 5 years from now. Maybe it's a year from now.
A month.
Or maybe next month.
Dude, we live in a meme market. It's never going away.
So it's going to happen
What do you
again.
mean
Be aware of that.
meme market?
I mean the ability for stocks and NFTs and whatever to quadruple in 30 days, that is never going away. It's structural. I'm not saying that we're going to be in a bull market forever. That's not what I'm saying.
Well, no, the gains don't last, but the fact that they can happen
the way that people can mobilize in 2 fucking seconds on TikTok, we've never seen these coordinated attacks on stocks, and that is never going away. We're never going back to the way it used to be.
And we had versions of this with Yahoo Finance. Like iOmega was the first message board stock. It was like probably 1997 or 98. And they every trader who was on Yahoo Finance message boards just coalesced around one stock. And it was literally the same. And then the short sellers got involved. Like I think Herb Greenberg was like debunking iOmega. 25 years ago or whatever.
It happened like crazy.
It happened.
Before
But
I heard
now
there
it's
was a lot-
faster.
TikTok,
Yeah.
before
Bigger and
Twitter.
faster.
Now it's maybe bigger and faster, fueled by social media. But the phenomena is greed, avarice,
It
FOMO,
happened,
whatever you call
it
it.
happened in the 1920s. So that
Happened
part,
in the
20s.
that
Exactly.
part of it is not unique, but the transmission mechanisms that happen today.
Certainly.
This also happens in bear markets. We get a new hero in every bear market that people become obsessed with and hang on their every word.
Like who?
Who was the guy that I wrote about in my book? You could tell him. You could tell I'm aging. What's his name? The biggest charlatan in history.
God.
Newsletter guy. Tip of your tongue, right? Anyway, this guy was filling basketball arenas with. This is the late '70s.
Now
Joe
that
Granville.
is religion.
Granville,
Yes.
yeah, that's it,
Granville
that's
was
it.
a fucking like outright like.
And he moved markets
Almost like
crazy.
he wanted you to call him a charlatan because it
I
was
was-
more press.
I was about to Google Josh Broad charlatan. I was afraid of what I was going to say.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't have been good. But anyway, the point is, in the late '70s, markets had gone nowhere already for like 10 years. So he was like this guy that would constantly call the next big drop, and he was right half the time, but it didn't matter. They would pack like NBA arenas to see him speak. And it's the same thing, but in reverse. Like it's no different. So we will always have this religious attachment to whoever just looked like they were the most right person in the world.
And you know what about like environments like we're in? Like these volatility spikes they never persist, right? Because you can't stay capitulating. That's an event. And so pessimism eventually subsides. It always does. Sometimes it takes a lot longer than other times. But when we have like prolonged pessimism, it's because there's a recession. And if we don't get a recession, which we might, then we're going to be back at all-time highs. And if we get a recession, all bets are off, obviously.
You know, the definition of panic is that your, the physiological is that your heart rate reaches it goes really, really fast. Your
Like
body
scientific definition of
This
panic.
is scientific.
Yeah.
Your heart rate gets really, really high, and it can't stay that high for an extended period of time. So panic, by definition, is a very short event. As a matter of fact, you know that panic euphoria indicator, it always pisses me off because I just feel like it's poorly named. Like it shouldn't be panic. It should be something else because it could stay in panic for a long
Pessimistic
time.
versus
Pessimistic,
pessimism.
right.
Fear, greed hit like negative today almost.
Right.
Yeah,
But anyway,
Phil,
panic
when you're
can't last that
describing-
long.
It can't.
you're describing
So the
one
VIX
person's
spike,
panic.
it's the same exact thing. That's the physiological aspect of it.
When I was doing this reporting for the story, one thing that one of my sources said was, it reminded me of that from, what do they say? The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Right.
He was like, the losses will continue until these guys are out of business.
Warren Buffett said that?
Warren Buffett said that. And actually it was Charlie Munger.
Who's these guys? Are we saying like Tiger Cubs, or are we saying like Robin Hood kids?
We're
Like,
saying, well, the Robin Hood kids, who knows what's going to happen, but we're talking Tiger Cubs.
they pivoted to fantasy sports.
Like
already.
serious people.
Very serious people. We're
Yeah.
talking serious people. And we are talking like definitely Tiger Global, like all these hedge funds that basically stopped hedging and converted into early stage VC funds.
Right.
And marked up companies at insane valuations.
You know what's great
we
about-
know it was going on there.
You know what's great about that they're all pivoted to early stage VC funds. Now you get the illiquidity and the losses.
Isn't that
See,
fun?
with high growth stocks, you only got the losses.
Actually, Josh and I were just talking about this. One thing that we didn't discuss. What if these guys step away from growth equity where they're like, all right, we're not writing checks for $40 billion companies anymore. We're going to either there's better deals in public markets or we got to get earlier. So now they create bubbles in like the seed rounds, right? Where the checks are still tiny.
And the opacity is better so that they can bullshit even more than they were doing before.
I want to do Apple and Google versus Web3. Everybody versus Web3, or Web3 versus everybody, maybe is the best way to put
Oh,
it.
this fucking Brian Armstrong tweet was the worst.
He makes me
What's the wait?
gag.
Let's say what the tweet was.
Ooh, Lynette, tell the story.
I don't want to tell
Okay,
the story.
I'll
You
tell the
guys tell the
story.
Michael,
story.
tell the story.
So he went on this like whole tweet thread about the creativity and how working with advertising agencies just did not work. They couldn't get there, or whatever the case may be. So it was telling the story
in
the
reference
of that
to
QR code.
the QR code
that
Super
was
Bowl
floating
commercial.
over the screen. And then one of the PR agencies that he works with was like, actually page 18, line 4, motherfucker. Like, what are you talking about?
Meaning it was an advertising firm that came up with the QR code.
These people, like,
So insecurity persists.
it
That does
persists
persist.
forever. And I mean, Coinbase is one of those companies where I'm just like, from jump, reading the S1, they were like, we're scamming. We're here. We've got a lot of insider mishmash. We got a lot of self-dealing and self-interest. Anyway, buy the stock. Thank you very much.
But it's disclosed.
Isn't it disclosed? Isn't that nice?
Coinbase CEO said something that I agree with recently, though, which is that the only arbiter of how Web3 is going to work is Apple and Google, because none of this shit can go mass market until it's an app in those two app stores. Like the general public will not be doing anything crypto related in their real lives unless it's on an app on their phone, and it won't be an app on their phone if it's not approved by Apple and Google. And so from that standpoint, big tech is going to control Web3, and a lot of this decentralization hippie shit is just going to end up being an illusion.
Nonsense. It's nonsense.
But all of it?
Hold on,
You
go
must
on.
have
I want to
an
hear.
There's a technology aspect to this, and I agree that decentralization is very, that there's going to be companies who are controlling this.
Nobody cares about decentralization. 2% of the people do.
But here's what you're going to see over a longer period of time. Maybe. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
We're gonna hold
but
you
here's
to it.
what
Go
I
on.
think. Right, we'll all be dead. But here's what I think, and that is that these technologies will continue to add efficiency to the way we do business. And so that's been an amazing boon. Companies like Google, companies like Apple, all of these technology, Intel, whatever. You're going to get potentially incredible efficiencies from these great technologies, and it will be an organizational efficiency. Whether it's truly decentralized, I mean, even at the beginning of the internet in the 90s.
Is there anything efficient, though, about how any of this stuff works today?
No.
It's the opposite.
It's so early.
It's terrible.
It's
terrible.
early.
But Phil's right. So here's the thing.
So early.
On the
Stupid early.
one hand, imagine judging Netflix in 2010 with the worst streaming library of all time. You would say this company is shit. What are they
What could
talking
you
about?
stream on Netflix in
Nothing.
2010?
Garbage. Now, that's on the one hand, okay? On the other hand, it's the fault of a lot of the people in Web3 and the crypto bros who are like so fucking loud and obnoxious that if you keep saying every day that Bitcoin fixes this, well, then you got to show us where's the beef, because right now it really kind of sucks.
That's just
It
going to be a part of
sucks,
it.
and I hope all of you guys are reading Matt Levine's column. I mean, the legal issues surrounding this are essentially, it's cool if everything's on the blockchain and but what if somebody inputs lies? What if somebody just steals? And then what is your recourse?
Well, I think
That
Because
will
it
definitely
seems like
happen.
You're going to be
because it
begging for
seems like
centralization.
it seems
when
like
you
the
get stolen
recourse
from.
is you have to go to a judge, which is exactly like centralization. And so, what is the point of this exercise?
I think what they would say is that because it's open source, like people can see what's going on. It's all right out there in the open.
But it doesn't stop anyone from stealing anything, and it doesn't stop anyone from refusing to give something back.
So if I were Pomp, I would tweet back to you. I would say Madoff didn't believe in blockchain.
And I would say block.
Well,
Think about how
saying.
slow semiconductors were in like the 60s.
Yeah, imagine you judge them in the 70s and say,
Yes,
what is
but
this
we
bullshit?
knew what they
Right.
were doing. We knew what they were doing. We knew they were going to get set faster. We knew what they were
And
going to
there
get
was
better
no-
at.
and there was
and
no
we knew
community.
what Netflix was going to get better at.
We
We
had
knew
no
what
idea what
Netflix
they
was
were
going to
doing.
do.
We don't know where
We
Web...
had no idea what they were doing.
time out.
We didn't know
There
we were
was
going to
no
be able to stream
community.
any movie we wanted.
And Uber?
It like
We had
But that
no
was the
idea.
promise
We had no
of
idea
it.
about that.
That was the promise of Netflix. Yes, the movies are shitty now, but eventually you'll be able to stream any movie you want. And semiconductors, like that came out of 30, 40 years of research from RCA and like IBM and Bell Labs and all these amazing companies that were doing in-house research. So obviously they knew that they were going to continue advancing this technology, and they already had the commercial applications for them because they were making them
The
in-house.
thing is that semiconductors didn't need a cheering section
No.
in the 1970s and 80s.
Right,
they
but it
fulfilled
wasn't.
the purpose.
It wasn't social media world.
That's
think-
my point. There's no laser-eyed Intel shareholders screaming at everybody.
But if you're
to listen
going,
to
if
them.
you're in their
Yes.
defense, if
Don't
you're
listen to them.
going to try and rebuild the financial system, you need some yahoos. You need some cheerleaders.
They're doing too much.
I don't disagree.
No, they're doing it a disservice. As a matter of fact, Vitalik
Well, how
the other
fun
day,
staying poor is the grossest thing ever.
Vitalik the other day said something about crypto winter, and he was like welcoming it. He was like, "Listen, it's a good
Crypto
thing.
winter.
We
Yeah.
have crypto winter, and it's actually a good thing because it separates the wheat from the chaff.
Yep.
And you're going to get a lot of these yahoos, as you say.
I always
are gonna
gain
go
so much
away.
weight during crypto winter. I can't help it. All right, go on. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make
You're
Lynette laugh
stupid.
once.
It's biological.
By the way, I gained weight during
keeping
crypto
your body
summer
warm.
also.
Crypto summer is hot.
This is Chris.
Telling you.
This is Chris Mims in the Journal. He's saying NFT. This is his headline, which obviously deliberately was meant to cause a shitstorm. NFTs, cryptocurrencies, and Web3 are multi-level marketing schemes for a new generation. Basically, like once you get long, you almost have to promote it because
It's not
that's
entirely.
like how it
It's not
works.
entirely wrong. I don't think there's much there. There's not entirely wrong. I think that again, it's difficult to be constructive when there's so much toxicity there. However, I really do believe that this is going to we don't know what this is going to become, and I do think that there are going to be parts of this that absolutely change the way we live.
What's the first, Phil? I asked this of every crypto person that comes on the show, and we have Packy on all the
Phil
time.
is Phil. Phil's not a crypto.
No. But people that know what they're talking
Stop.
about. People that know what they're talking about. When this does become a mass market thing and more than just trading coins, where will it show up first? The consumer, or what will be the first killer app for decentralized finance or any of this?
Here, I'm not sure if this will be the first, but this will be one thing that we'll take note of. And that is this, that when you pick up an iPhone, or let's say a 3-year-old picks up an iPhone, they don't think about what's inside it. They don't think about how it works. They just swipe, and it's very natural.
Yes.
They get it. Everybody gets it immediately. There's going to come a time where you're not going to be thinking about the blockchain. You're not going to be thinking about what token it is. You're not going to be thinking when it just works. That's going to be a major sign.
Okay.
So that's like the application level. That's like the user interface level. We're nowhere. I mean, there's decentralized search engines or whatever, and there's wallets. It's very early, but we're nowhere near that place
Do you
yet.
think that the promise of this will truly be felt by the people that are supposed to be, which is the unbanked, the people who can't get a Visa card? Like, is this really going to be? Is anyone going to build anything for
Do I
them?
have to answer that?
Right.
Just kidding. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think
You and I agree on that.
The wealthy get wealthier. And, Andreessen
You mean it's
and
not
Horowitz
gonna-
are up to here. They're not decentralized.
So
you know what I
Mike
mean? They're
Novogratz
VCs.
was lying when he told me that this could help the young women of Afghanistan.
It may. It may help.
he lying to me?
It may help. Here's a situation where it does
I
help.
think the intention is that it could do that. I just don't know who's going to build that.
We're Americans, and so we're very sort of American-centric. And there are instances where crypto could help in unbanked, in nations that don't have the same resources that we have in terms of currency.
Okay.
If you have a currency that's being completely devalued and have your money in Bitcoin, that might...
You're a Ukrainian fleeing to Poland. You're a refugee. You
Right.
want out. You want your kids out of there.
Right.
Okay. How do you get money that you could travel with, not be afraid to be robbed, and that you can be reunited with once you get where you're eventually
today
going to
you
go?
can't.
That's a
Visa
great
card?
point.
Today you can't with crypto. You can't today. But
Why not?
You can.
Why can't I move? I don't know what the currency is in Ukraine, but why couldn't I move my native currency onto FTX, have it in the cloud, cross the border with nothing on my person, and then once I get where I'm going to end up, Lithuania, Moldova,
Fine, I guess
whatever,
what I'm-
I could
Isn't
do it
all
back
money
out.
in the
now.
cloud? All money is in the cloud now.
That's right, but I don't know if I can move legal currency via the traditional banking
Yeah,
system.
but if you don't have a bank account, like for example, Canada, what they were doing with the truckers and like blocking off their bank accounts, how does crypto fix that? If you can't put crypto into your bank account, like how are you supposed to transact and barter?
right.
NFTs. I have no idea. All right,
apes.
I'm getting over my skis
Bored
with
apes.
this. Facebook, full disclosure, I bought the stock this morning.
Not to brag.
Not to brag, I'm up 18 points right out of the gates. I don't like it though, and I can't wait to get out of it. This stock last week fell from among the top 10 most valuable companies in the world by market cap.
Oh, it did?
It did. It's out. It is no longer in the top 10. Mark Zuckerberg's social media giant was worth about $565 billion as of last Thursday's close, a stunning decline from a few months earlier when it was the sixth most valuable company in the world. Now what? Is this it? Like, have we seen the peak Facebook as a company?
Mark Zuckerberger, as Lil Boosie used to call him, seems to be making some mistakes. Like this whole meta thing, like I wouldn't follow Mark Zuckerberg into a bodega to get a bacon, egg, and cheese. I don't know who's following him into the metaverse.
Okay.
It seems like it'll be one of those things that so far you need a headset or something to get there. I don't think most Americans are taking that leap. The reason why Facebook and Instagram are so addictive is because they're right there. They're on your phone.
So
they're
easy.
very easily
You fall right
accessible.
into it.
And
Yeah.
that's not what the metaverse is. So far, as Satya Nadella told us after, or maybe before he bought Activision, that so far the metaverse is gaming. So you want to focus on gaming. Maybe it'll never be more than gaming. But the idea that I would go to the office with a giant headset on that prohibits me from drinking coffee and makes me want to die. Like people are like, oh, well, you could buy like Balenciaga clothes with Bitcoin that you wear in the metaverse. And I'm like, that sounds so bleak.
I don't think I want to do any of that.
I don't want to do any of that.
But there are people that do.
Well, a lot of Silicon Valley and the things that they say that are just like preposterous to us could be read in like novels from the 80s and 70s, like tech sci-fi novels. And the metaverse is a concept from a sci-fi novel in a dystopian world. The world sucks, but we can still breathe the air. We can still go out. Our world is not a dystopia. The reason in these novels that you go to the metaverse is because the world sucks, and we're not there. So I don't understand what Mark Zuckerberg is doing right now. The world does not suck enough for me to go to the metaverse.
You think if you lived in San Francisco, you might feel
I might go to the
differently?
metaverse if I lived in San Francisco.
Okay.
I think we're so early. And I was actually astounded by Zuck's depiction of the metaverse in that video he put out the day they changed their
It
name.
looked like Blue's Clues.
It was
Why
Blue's
did they
Clues.
do
Did you know
that?
that
It was
people are already
cartoonish.
getting
It was
groped
embarrassing.
in the metaverse? People have already complained about
Wait,
what?
what?
Groped in the metaverse.
What does that even mean?
Getting uncomfortably touched by other cartoon figures in the metaverse.
All right.
So
This is why Russia could basically do whatever it wants.
So-
because this is what we're fucking preoccupied with.
Mark Zuckerberg cannot control Facebook or what's going on there. He wants to build a new world that he can't control either. Why are we letting him do this?
The risk of, and anybody with a soul does not love Zuckerberg, but the
I don't
risk
hate him.
here,
I don't hate him as much as everyone else seems to hate him. I just don't care about him.
you know, it turns out in real life, the Winklevi, what is it, Winklevi? They are more.
This
They
guy's
were
the
so
best.
hated in that movie, right?
They were the heroes.
They might have been the good guys.
and now
all along.
you like them better
I
than
don't
you
think
like
Lynette, I don't think
Zuckerberg.
Lynette
It's
likes.
a Hitler versus Stalin situation.
All right. Well, guess what,
Hitler v.
guys?
Stalin.
Coinbase.
Steel death.
Coinbase.
Steel
No
case
heroes.
deathmatch.
Coinbase is down 7% in the after hours.
Why did they invent a new type of metaverse?
Big revenue beat. Expects trading volumes to fall in Q1.
This is Kevin Dugan at New York Magazine. We may be witnessing the early days of the fall of Zuckustus. He was comparing him to a Roman emperor. Facebook's once unbeatable ad tracking system, the engine that made it a more than $1 trillion company, has effectively been neutralized by Apple, which allows users to block the company's trackers. Google's going to phase in the same thing, blah, blah, blah.
On their conference call, they said headwinds in Apple like 1 billion times.
Yes.
TikTok is kicking their ass and is perceived to be less toxic, although it's probably more toxic if you're a parent of a teenager. My kids never got hooked on an Apple app.
I don't TikTok. So
Okay.
I
But
think
it's-
Facebook's powers have peaked like a few years ago.
I think
Thank God.
Instagram is cocaine and TikTok is crack. Like they literally cannot stop.
That's why I
And
haven't downloaded it. I can't.
Don't
The
go there.
only risk is if Zuck buys a young company that is,
They're not going to let him.
antitrust regulators are all
What could he buy?
over him.
I don't know.
They wouldn't
I have
let
no
this
idea,
guy
but
buy a
young
Dunkin'
metaverse
Donuts
company.
franchise.
He paid like $4 for Instagram.
Anybody can make their own coin, and he tried to make a coin, and they said no.
By the way, both parties hate him equally for slightly different reasons. But like there is no universe in which either political party just lets that happen, almost no matter what he tries to do. And that might be a big part of the problem.
And he brought this on himself.
And,
Tough to like 'em.
and Josh is long.
And I own the stock. All right. Fed officials now have rules.
Finally, holy shit.
Why did this take 100 years, do we think? Senior Fed officials must now announce that they are buying or selling a security 45 days in advance. That notice will not be retractable, meaning if they say they're doing something, they actually have to do it. Investments must be held for at least 1 year.
I love it.
The Fed's 12 regional bank presidents will be required to publicly disclose securities transactions within 30 days.
Is Nancy Pelosi going on eToro, a Webull? What's that? Is it Webull where you can follow somebody's portfolio?
The Fed will also extend its financial trading blackout period, which typically applies in the run-up to Fed meetings by 1 day after each. So if they say something in their statement, the Fed can't trade within, 2 days instead of 1. I don't know what that is.
Long overdue. What about Congress? Can we do that? Can we do that
But wait
next?
a minute.
They must have a new racket. They're like selling used cars or something.
Wouldn't you think the public approval of these rules would be 100%? Is there an argument that's against this that anyone outside of the Fed would champion? Can you think of anything?
I think most Americans would say, "What's the Fed?" And then, great.
Yeah, Fed who?
Fed what?
Wait,
Okay.
when am
sounds
I
good.
getting fed?
Starving?
exactly.
Speaking of,
So going the other way, I didn't read this yet, unfortunately. I put it in the doc, I forgot to read it. There's some talk about the SEC looking at the accredited investor rule and wanting to raise the limits, which I think is totally backwards. I
just lowered it.
don't know that everybody should be investing in venture capital, private equity, whatever, but like they're going the other way and trying to raise.
It's a rich get richer play.
What is
It's
going
like, hey,
what the hell is going on?
It's a rich get richer play. Like don't give the poor people the same access to anything that we
All
have.
right, here's the argument against doing that. Quote, the inclusion of more people pushes economic development, ingenuity, returns for a group of people who've been historically financially locked out
my God.
of the ability to buy homes, locked out to levels of loans and access to capital, said Shelley Bell, founder and CEO of Black Girl Ventures, who spoke at an SEC meeting. So there is a groundswell of opposition to continuing to lock people out.
I oppose.
You want higher?
No, lower.
You want lower. So
Lower.
you don't oppose what
I'm
she's
sorry.
saying.
No, I oppose what the SEC is doing,
Well,
potentially.
I don't know if they're really doing it. I think they're considering it.
Well, I oppose the consideration.
You know what they should do? An IQ test instead of a financial autopsy or whatever. Like instead of worrying so much how much money do you have, it's like how fucking stupid are you? Like can we
a great idea.
trust that you're not about to take your net worth to zero
Right.
immediately?
You have some self-control.
What do you think?
I don't know. Marshmallow test and
Marshmallow test would be
yeah.
good.
There are
Marshmallow
Yeah,
test.
so
exactly.
many ways for investors to blow themselves up in public markets.
Yeah,
they
that's
don't.
true.
They don't need private investments these days. They did the Jobs Act was meant to expand the way companies could raise capital, and so far there has not been like this crime wave. You know, there's been the regular scams, but it doesn't appear that there was a huge uptick in swindlers. Just the regular amount of swindlers.
I don't. We fraudy right now, y'all. Everything's fraudy in this
Well, that's
world.
because things are falling.
Oh my
It's
God.
the golden age of.
I have.
Chanos
just-
has been saying that for a while.
and I agree. We're in the same club there. Like
This is the worst you've ever seen it. You think?
in my career, for sure.
I think it might be.
There's some really scammy companies.
Without naming names, like where? Like crypto?
biotech.
Well, no. Now it's also really bad
Never been a
because
shortage.
celebrities are involved to an extent.
Crypto,
Celebrities are
biotech.
promoting. Look, the crypto people have all the money.
What does fortune favor, Josh?
The brave, obviously, but they have the money now to get like rappers to post Insta. It doesn't take much, but like Lil Yachty is being sued. Why was somebody taking financial advice from Lil Yachty in the first place? I'm not sure. He literally has rainbow teeth. But no, I swear, like I'm not even
I'm
exaggerating.
Googling Lil Yachty.
He,
Yeah,
like,
no, I've heard of him. I believe he raps.
Jewish?
He's the hip hop.
Ooh, wow.
he's in the hip hop.
Rainbow teeth indeed. What he looks like he's got some.
Could you imagine like following him on Instagram and being like, "Wait, I should buy Safe Moon"?
He's no little baby though.
He's no Lil Baby.
Oh,
Lyrically, he
God,
can't touch Lil Baby.
Jeez.
All right. Anyway, I would agree with you. It's pretty scammy. All right, we're gonna go to favorites, and then we're gonna go to Bobby Vans. Does that sound good?
Oh, we're going to Bobby Vans?
Yeah. We're not gonna bring. We're not going to bring the equipment.
Thanks,
that's
Dad.
We're not
awesome.
taping there.
We're not taping there. There's where we're going to say what we really think.